Our second last speaker is Dr. Rubina Suhail. She is a professor of OBGYN and a consultant at Hamid Latif Hospital. She is a champion of sexual and reproductive health rights, a pioneer of kangaroo mother care. She is the founder chair of Mehfooz Ma Initiative, a chair of FIGO Committee on Women Facing Crisis from 2021 till 23. She is also the chair of Education Committee of SAFOM. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Rubina Suhail.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I think it's a little late in the day and probably a lot of you will be tired and wanting to have your lunch. But I hope that I will not bore you. I would just like to start by thanking Dr. Shaheen Zafar not only for inviting me over here, but having the wisdom to select a very important topic which is extremely relevant to today's healthcare system. So I'm going to talk about violence against doctors and also a little bit about misogyny if I get the time. I have no conflict of interest to declare in this presentation, but a couple of people to thank, and some slides of this presentation have been used before. I would just like to start with a story. And that story is a tragic incident which happened in Lahore in Children's Hospital, where a little baby who was an infant lost her life during treatment. She was brought into the hospital in critical condition. So as the news of the death of the baby broke, the family became violent and they started attacking the doctor on duty. They not only assaulted him, they tortured him, they banged his head against the wash basin, and they beat him up to an extent that the poor guy collapsed in Children's Complex in Lahore. He was a young man, supposedly going to be married in 4 days' time and looking forward to beginning a new life. And what happened to him? This is how he looked. If you look at the whole situation and you look at the indignity of it all, that a self-respecting doctor is treated so brutally, and the way he is made to lose his confidence, his self-respect. And if you look at the two pictures, to me, it is an insult to humanity that somebody who's treating you and taking care of you and your family is treated so brutally. Most of the time in our departments, we see verbal abuse. And we take verbal abuse as something which happens. And if you talk to a senior, they will say, हाँ, ऐसा हो जाता है. लेकिन ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए, because this verbal abuse can become a physical assault anytime, and that verbal abuse is the first red flag that should come into our mind that something bad is about to happen. So this is the situation in Pakistan. If you look at this article by Medscape, Medscape in 2023 says that 9 out of 10 physicians in a Medscape poll reported that they had experienced one or more potentially violent incidences in their workplace. A study which was carried out in Pakistan in 2020 and published in BMJ Global Health, it covered basically 4 cities of Pakistan, 12 districts and 3 provinces. And this survey was conducted on more than 8,000 healthcare providers, and what did it show? It showed that more than 1/3 of the healthcare providers reported violence in the last 6 months, about 40% of them. And most of them, again, experienced verbal abuse. But about 7%, and to me, 7% is a bit too much. Even if one healthcare provider experienced violence out of these 8,000 or more healthcare providers, it is a bit too much. So they experienced violence and abuse which was related in a physical nature. So the question is, when they asked that what were the reasons of violence, it is perceived reasons. So the perception was that the patient died because of the negligence of a doctor. The perception was that because the patient was serious, they were worried and stressed out. And the perception was that there was a delay in care in providing treatment. Now, the situation is almost global. It is not only in Pakistan that this is happening. It is even worse in neighboring countries in India. Why do I mention India? Because we keep on comparing various things about each other. More than 70% of those doctors thought that we need to have some kind of security for ourselves. So people have left jobs. They're thinking about their personal security. And it is the violence against doctors in India is almost of epidemic proportions. If you think about UK and USA, we like to think that the Western world is better than us. But it is not so. UK GP surgeries actually reported a doubling in the incidence of violence in the last 5 years. In USA, it was seen that the healthcare workers were 5 times more likely to experience workplace violence than the workers in all other industries. So this is the situation over there. But the worst hit is China. Why do I say they are the worst hit? Because death of doctors have been reported in China one after another since 2018 onwards, and that is why the Chinese government had to propagate a law for violence against doctors and for protection of the doctors. Now, when we talk about violence against the healthcare providers, we like to think that this is a new problem. But it is not so. And I just want to refer to a paper which was published 135 years ago, which also talked that doctors should not be prosecuted and there should be no violence against the physicians. WHO also supports protection of the doctors and protection of the healthcare workers from violence. Now the question in all of our minds should be that why does violence happen around us? So there are patient factors, there are doctor factors, there are the factors of the healthcare system. But I think one of the biggest factors is that justice must seem to be done. So when we are treating a patient, Dr. Rashid कहते थे कि सोंदे बच्चे नु तुसी प्यार करोगे ना बच्चे नु पता चलेगा ना मानो. So most of the time when we take care of our patients, ना patient को पता होता है कि हमने उसे मरने से बचा लिया ना खानदान को, because we are working in our silos, taking care of the patient. मर गया तो भी अंदर से बाहर मैसेज भेज दिया और बच गया तो भी अंदर से बाहर मैसेज भेज दिया. No connectivity between the patient and the doctor, no connectivity between the patients and the doctors and the families. So there are various reasons, and patients would like to think that it is the doctor's attitude. They like to think that there is inadequate communication skill, apathy on the part of the doctor, and sometimes the junior doctors especially are not very well prepared, and we let them go and face the music without taking the responsibility ourselves of talking to the patients. On the part of the patient, they lack awareness, education, communication, information, so many a times their behavior is rather odd. The healthcare system has a lot to be desired for because we lack adequate healthcare systems. There are long waiting hours, poor waiting areas, power practice in place, poor communication with the patients, poor facilities, and the exorbitant cost of healthcare for our patients despite the fact that they are going to public healthcare facilities. So I think these are the important factors because of which it happens. The question is, are there implications of this violence? Is the implication only of a personal nature that I as a healthcare provider will suffer? The answer is no. Not only will the healthcare providers suffer, but also will the patient suffer and also will the healthcare system suffer. That is the magnitude of the problem. Now, there is a huge negative impact not only on the physical health of the doctor. The story that I've shared with you, do you think that that doctor has ever come out of that trauma of being violently beaten and just being about to die? The answer is no, because there's a huge mental impact on the mental health of the doctors. There are long-term implications for the doctors that they're leaving jobs, moving out of those jobs, their job vacancies, so the health system is going to suffer because they will not have adequate doctors to fill in the slots that they are required. So that is why we need to do something urgently in terms of short-term measures and in terms of long-term measures. Now, if we want to create a safe and productive healthcare environment, it is essential to take those proactive steps to mitigate the violence against the doctors, and it is of urgent nature that we need to do work about it. Now, I have been a part of the Committee of Women Facing Crisis, Human Rights, Refugees, and Violence Against Women. And our committee was instrumental in developing a checklist. And anybody who's interested in me sharing the checklist with them, I'll be more than happy to do that. But for the paucity of time, I did not go into the details of the checklist. But I have pointed out the 10 pertinent areas that the checklist is dealing with. So it talks about patient and family education. It talks about public awareness campaigns. It talks about the increased awareness of healthcare providers themselves about the sensitivity of the whole issue, training of the staff, effective communication for healthcare providers, improved documentation to protect us, improved security measures for the doctors so nobody can have an approach to the doctors where they can show any kind of verbal or physical abuse, zero tolerance policy on the part of the hospital, which should be actually periodically be said and should be visible in terms of notifications, not a very small board saying that violence will not be tolerated. It should be written in big words so that everybody knows that if you're going to misbehave with the doctor is not going to see you. So I once had my secretary coming into my clinic, and she said कि वो एक patient की family आई हुई है and they are misbehaving क्योंकि वो पहले अंदर आना चाहते हैं. तो मैंने कहा पैसा कीजिए उन्हें भेज दीजिए. So the patient and the family came in, they were very rich and supposedly very powerful क्योंकि उनकी जो body language थी उससे पता चल रहा था that they did not want to take no for an answer and no nonsense. So I said कि मैं Dr. Rubina हूँ, thank you very much for visiting my clinic, but I cannot examine you. So they were taken aback and they said कि क्यों? आप हमें क्यों नहीं देख सकती? मैंने कहा because you misbehave with my secretary. You misbehave with my secretary, that is why I think I'm not the right person for you. You will find good doctors in Lahore and maybe you need to change your doctor. They were so upset बाहर जाते हुए मुझे बहुत गालियाँ दे के गए. But I am so proud of myself that I had the courage to say that I'm not going to see you because you are misbehaving. And I really think that all of us need to do that to protect not only ourselves but our staff because they are weak. They are going to basically be taking all that crap that people are giving them. So a zero tolerance policy, support services for the doctors and healthcare providers if they suffer, and legal protection of our teams. These are the components of the FIGO checklist that we have designed to protect the healthcare workers. And who is going to implement that FIGO checklist? I think Madam Azizun Nisa is sitting over here, and I respectfully request her that this list should be shared with all the members of SOGP, and this should be incorporated into the healthcare systems, not only personally, but at a government level. The government should make sure, the Healthcare Commission should make sure that only those facilities should be recognized by the Healthcare Commission who have a policy of protection of the healthcare workers. So I will just end by saying that these kind of policies, and this is not the end of my presentation, so please don't get prepared for your lunch because I'm going to talk about misogyny for another 5 minutes. So, but I would end this component of my talk by just saying that all of us are responsible for creating a safe environment for the healthcare providers. But I have talked only about the external threat to the healthcare providers. But I want to talk about an internal threat to the healthcare providers with excuse from the male members of OBGYN who are sitting here, and some of them are pretty senior. But I think this is an important issue which also need to talk about. And that issue is misogyny. So many of you, especially the youngsters, might not be clear what misogyny is. Misogyny is an attitude by the men that we are there for you to help you out because aap sinfe nazuk hain. I don't want to be sinfe nazuk. I want to be an equal partner in the game. So when men are trying to mistreat women and trying to say, ye to nahi kar sakti, so women need to stand up and say that we can do everything that any man can do. Now, interestingly, we think that misogyny is a problem of the East. It's not a problem of the East, it is very well a problem of the West. And Guardian published that 91% of women doctors in the British Medical Association, they had faced and experienced sexism in the last 2 years, and 47% of them felt that they had been treated less favorably because of their gender. So this is how important it is that it is rampant in other areas of the world as well. There is a term which is called benevolent sexism. It is very widespread, and I will give 3 examples of it. And some of my colleagues sitting over here might say, this is what Islam says, isn't it? What are you talking about? So for them, my answer is coming beforehand, and I just want to say that Islam says for their wives. Islam doesn't say for the whole female generation going to offices. So the first misbelief that benevolent sexism says is that men are responsible for women. So our colleagues, male colleagues, are not responsible for us. We are responsible for ourselves. Men and women are different and complementary. No, we will do the same things that you do. And men's personal lives depend on women? No, they don't. So I think that this is very important subject which we need to talk about. But the problem is, there's a problem. And the problem is, it is not only men who think that women are not good enough. It is also women who think that women are not good enough. So according to this analysis which UNDP published, almost 90% of men and women globally are biased against women. What do you say to that? And according to the index, about half of the world's men and women feel that men make better political leaders. More than 40% feel that men make better business executives. Men have more right to a job when jobs are less. 28% thinks it is justified for a man to beat his wife. So if this is what we think, how are in the world we going to help ourselves? It's lamha fikriya hai hum sabke liye कि हम क्या कर रहे हैं. And that brings me to my favorite topic of gender equality. And people have tried to tell me that you should talk about this subject in some other fashion so that people don't get offended. But I have decided I want to talk about it upfront. Do you look at this publication by Dawn, the cartoon that was published? What does it say? There's no gender equality for us. And I really mean it. Because in South Asia, for gender equality to be achieved, it will take 195 years. I won't be alive by then, and all of us would not be there. So would it be really possible to achieve it in the next 200 years or so? Probably not even then, the way Pakistan is going. So the point is, why is there so much gender inequality, and can we play a role in it? And I have got only, I think, 4 slides to go. The first thing is that all this gender-based violence, which is external or internal, it is basically taking place because of certain norms that society gives to the man and the woman. So the society believes that masculinity and femininity are 2 identical things, and a man has a right to dominance, they have a right to aggression, they have sexual entitlement over women, they are tough, and they have power over the others. So my answer is no, this is not true. This is not true. And if we as mothers are teaching our son that it is okay to be rough and aggressive because you are a man, करते रहो जो कर रहे हो, तो फिर हमारे साथ यही सलूक होगा, and then we deserve what we get. So what do we need to do? We need to make sure that we take care of these gender norms and bring them to a fair gender equilibrium at our homes. Women are not supposed to be, I'm not saying that they should fight, but I'm saying that they should not be submissive and docile and only domestic and only reserved sexuality. After all, sexuality is for them as well. It is not only for the men. So we need to bring a change in the environment. And the change in the environment that we are looking for is basically changing the gender norms at our home, at the level of the community. Then we can expect the government of Pakistan to do something about gender equality. If we are keeping on bringing up our boys and girls in the same fashion as we did 1,000 years ago, then we are never going to improve. So we have to identify those harmful norms. We have to change the social expectation, publicize the change, and reinforce. And this is a long, long drawn process. So what are the potential solutions to combat misogyny in the workplace? I'm not going to go into the details, but just to say that we have to have gender equality in workplace, we have to provide training and education to the male and the female employees, telling them of their rights and telling them that this organization is cognizant of the fact that women are equal to men. They put in the same number of hours and they deserve the same kind of opportunities and pay structure as the men deserve. So we have to foster inclusive leadership. And that leadership, nowadays, women are coming in leadership positions. But if I come into a leadership position and I do not help the other women to come up, climbed the ladder, then I have failed in my duty. So I think that we have to make our full effort to combat misogyny in the workplace. I met these couple of beautiful ladies, and I'm going to talk about them in a minute because GMC actually has also urged to denounce sexist and misogynistic behavior towards the female colleagues. And these are the two beautiful ladies that I met in London a short while ago, and they have created an organization, Surviving in Scrubs. And one of these doctors was actually assaulted and abused while on job. And that led her to creating this organization and to improve the environment for the women workforce, which are the healthcare professionals. So my ending message is, we have to change the environment. And the environment will not change till we become a part of the environment and we take it upon ourselves that we need every day to do something, not only to protect the healthcare workers against violence from the external sources, but also to protect our colleagues, our juniors, ourselves against misogyny and biased practices. And my last slide is, please don't take it as an Indian music, take it as a sign of liberty for the women. So my last message is this message, which I hope, mujhe awaaz nahi aa rahi. Excuse me, voice kyun nahi aa rahi? Voice. Sorry, you'll just have to wait for half a second. Kar दूं? Kar दूं? Yeah? This is my message for you.
भोली सी आशा चांद तारों को छूने की आशा आसमानों में उड़ने की आशा दिल ही छोटा सा
Protect the women, support the women, work for the change. Thank you very much.
Wow, that was excellent. Dr. Rubina, thank you so much for bringing up this very important topic, and you covered it very, very nicely. I would like to call upon stage Dr. Saqib to give her a token of thanks. A big hand to all these wonderful people.